We had an idea for a video pretty last second, which started with Danny saying,
if you have been on your phone at all over the course of the last 4 or 5 days, you may have seen a lot of people comparing the new Dior Cruise show to Matthieu Blazy's Chanel. It's all over the place.
So for anybody who's new to fashion, there was recently this huge shakeup where almost every major brand on the fashion calendar changed their creative director. The big questions during that shakeup were who's going to go to Chanel, who is going to go to Dior. And it ended up, of course, being Matthieu Blazy going to Chanel and Jonathan Anderson going to Dior. So right now, Matthieu Blazy has had one ready-to-wear, then a métier d'art show, which is a special thing that just Chanel does to kind of show off how many employees they have that do handcrafted goods. He then did a haute couture show, and then a second ready-to-wear show, and now a cruise show. So he is, if you really want to count all of them, he is 5 runways in. Jonathan Anderson, on the other hand, has had his opening show for men's, then his opening ready-to-wear show for women's. He then had couture. He then had another men's show, another women's show, and now a cruise show. So 6 shows under Jonathan.
Until literally this week, I don't think that anybody in the general public gave a fuck about cruise collections at all. I mean, cruise isn't the thing that you get excited about. I think that this is the first time that that has changed.
What are the differences between a cruise show and a ready-to-wear show? What the heck is cruise?
So cruise shows are shows that happen in between seasons when customers of these major luxury brands find themselves going on vacations, cruises, going to resorts, and that's why they call them things like cruise or resort. Sometimes they're called pre-fall and pre-spring. It's just to sort of tide people over in between fall and spring. I think the whole thing about cruise shows is that's generally supposed to be lower stakes.
Yeah, this cruise season seems to be the catalyst point to really ramp up the conversation about Matthieu and Jonathan as rivals in some way, this idea.
You may be asking yourself, why do 2 major luxury brands look so similar? You may be asking yourself, is this stealing? Anybody desperate for clicks, it's always stealing.
Yeah, just theft.
Before we get into that, let's talk about PR and fashion press and media and perception. To the general public, there is a perception about the fashion industry in which everything is stratified. There's sort of the ultra luxury houses, and then everyone else slots in underneath until you get to like the bottom of the pyramid and it's just like fast fashion. The top is typically occupied by 2 names predominantly, and those are Hermes and Chanel.
Yes, that is mistakenly what a lot of people believe, yes.
You can see it as though they are all fighting for the number 1 spot.
On this channel, we made an episode a while back about how luxury is not a word with a definition. It's certainly not a sliding scale of expense and niceness. It is an identity that a company develops with its extra time and its extra money. Like, how would Rick Owens fit into that sliding scale of niceness? He doesn't. He just has a very strong luxury identity that is unlike anyone else. And that's why his customers that could afford something that was higher up on the scale choose to only shop at Rick because they identify with his luxury identity.
And it's also super cool. On the back end, all of these fashion companies have very dedicated and loyal PR employees who work very tirelessly hard to make sure that these brands are represented the way that they would like. There are strategies that are developed in order to ensure the optimal success of these collections of clothes. And I think that everybody basically took this shakeup to mean we can put ourselves in a different bracket.
We can level up.
We think we can level up here by doing this. It feels like Chanel's strategy of approaching that has gone tremendously well. Chanel is experiencing a resurgence beyond anybody's wildest dreams.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody saw this coming. And also, I would say that for Chanel in particular, it's quite noteworthy because it's the first time in a very long time that Chanel has appeared at all different. And I think that where people are starting to lose it a little bit with Dior is that it's been just a little disjointed so far. His appointment wasn't even really like clear. I mean, we knew that it had already happened.
Matthieu Blazy was able to have a year to prepare for his first show, and it was this big like lightning rod event. And Jonathan Anderson had, I think, a few weeks Probably he had been prepping beforehand, had some ideas that he was going to bring in doing his homework, but there was a very short period of time before his premiere show, which was during Men's Week, which a lot of people thought was anticlimactic.
I think that the reason that Jonathan was strategically put to debut in that season is so that he didn't have to compete with his debut against Matthieu. I think that at first, all the strategy was sort of like, let's not put them up against each other so soon. And that ultimately ended up being a little bit anticlimactic, like you said. But then when you experience this once in a generation alignment of fashion media and public loving a brand all at the same time, maybe the gauntlet was kind of thrown down.
Also, to really pit them as rivals, they would need to think of each other as rivals in some capacity, which like these like two like sweetheart cutie pies are like definitely not like just kind of like, fuck you, my rival.
Why would a company that is trying to delineate itself as better or cooler than another ultra luxury brand do the same kinds of clothes that the other brand is doing? The theory that got us to decide to film this video today is one that you said, if you want to go ahead with that.
I refer to this theory as the rap battle theory, where sometimes you'll find that a rapper who is much, much smaller will make a diss track about a rapper that is much more powerful than them. And the idea there is to, of course, like get in the news and stuff, but I think largely, if you can do it right, you can sort of convince the public that the two of you are rivals and that you're really on the same level and like, ooh, who's gonna win between us? Make sure that if you're keeping up with them, you're always keeping up with me because we are rivals. You and I, as fashion critics, don't buy into this binary system of like who's the better design. Designers are always just doing different things with different goals. Because a Cruise collection is one that very few people are paying attention to by comparison. I mean, like that was something where they knew that deep head insiders and media people that need content ideas will notice those comparison. The side-by-sides are going to show up. YouTubers are going to start making videos about it and stuff. And then it's able to kind of establish this thing of just sort of like, actually, we are rivals. And that the new strategy is that it's like in this rivalry thing, like, who are you, Team Dior or Team Chanel? The number one takeaway that we have learned from the past few years is that fashion PR people are abundantly aware of what's happening on Instagram. They are full. The idea that they aren't checking the comments for things is nonsense. They are not only checking those comments, they are doing things and placing things in certain ways so that it will facilitate certain kinds of discussions in the comments. It is very nuanced, strategic, and purposeful.
And also, I don't fault them for doing any of that.
No. If you and I had the money, I'd be like spreading all these rumors that it's like, oh, did you know that like Bliss got a perfect score on his ACT? I did so bad on my ACT that my mom told me not to tell people that I took the ACT.
I did get a perfect score on my ACT.
Fellas, get you an educated woman.
And it doesn't even matter if people are trying to compare like which one looks better. It doesn't even matter if people are saying, oh, well, they're so similar. What that's saying is Dior and Chanel are in the same conversation.
And if you'll notice, a lot of those comments that we were seeing just in checking different people that we follow and like who were reporting about this, a lot of those comments, they weren't saying like, oh, it's theft, this is bad or whatever. They like I was surprised, a lot of people were saying it looks so similar, that's cool. Further support that this like rival thing is silly is that Jonathan stated during that show that one of his major goals is that he wants to start dressing movies. He wants to be like the guy that Hollywood goes to say like, we really need the clothes to speak in this movie. How should we? And that he sort of becomes the fixer. Matthieu isn't concerned about movies at all. He's concerned with working with a bunch of artisans to make clothes that no one's ever seen before. They are just clearly, they're doing different things and that's okay.
But the PR machine that wants to reinforce the top down of luxury quality amazingness, we are the best in the world, that machine wants people to decide.
Something I don't want this to create is this idea that because there is a purposeful strategy here, then that's like fucked up and like that's so stupid because it's some like secret thing and I found out about it, like your tricks won't work on me. All of advertising, all of public relations sort of feels slimy, and I don't think that's fair. If you have the budget to be able to say everything is designed, it's either designed bad or it's designed good, how do we want to purposefully present ourselves to the public? That purposefulness looks like things like this. It was such an interesting example that we wanted to really talk about it and kind of walk it out and stuff. But generally, this is why you and I focus so much on what are these designers doing as artists? What are these clothes doing? How do these collections mechanically function? What makes them good?
If this is a new interest for you, if fashion is a new interest for you, what a good time to start.
This is one of the best times to be a fashion fan in history, including people who can't spend like $6,000 on a purse. This is absolutely the best time to kind of participate in fashion as sort of like a cultural artistic conversation.
Yeah.
Before we go, I have a really important question that is kind of a sideline thing. Would you guys be interested in doing this as a podcast like format, very similar to what we have going on right here? Should we kiss more?
Oh my God. And then also, like, we have opinions that like are kind of too spicy to share in public. So maybe this is something for the patrons.
Maybe so. Yeah. This has been really interesting. I don't feel like there's very many situations where the inner mechanism, the inside baseball stuff is actually interesting enough to talk about in this format.
Usually the insider baseball isn't so obviously in the clothes. But isn't that like how everything works nowadays?
It's all in the clothes. I'm going to move over here so that we can know that this is definitely a different part of the episode. If you would like to listen to us yap more, we actually have like four episodes on the Patreon where we're just answering questions mostly from our patrons. We also have dozens of hours of extra content on there, a bunch of interviews with designers that are unbelievable, a bunch of extended episodes of the Margiela series. The Patreon is it's the greatest thing ever. Don't you agree?
I do. Please and thank you.
Love you all a lot.
Bye.